Okay, so, we keep saying this every week, but seriously, this deep dive is, it's a big one.
Yeah, this is a big one.
TikTok, potentially banned in the US.
Huge, right.
Huge. We've got government warnings, tech giants in the mix, and like a whole generation that is not backing down.
Ready to fight.
They want to
Yeah.
keep making their TikToks.
Yeah.
And, well, you said over this Inside Edition report, it's about these, well, they're not just kids, but
Yeah, it's not just like,
they're not,
silly dances anymore. This is serious stuff.
right. It's not just dance crazes. So where do we even start?
Well, this Inside Edition thing, it does a good job showing how intense this is. You've got these young TikTokers, and they're leading the charge against this ban.
Yeah, and they're not messing around. TikTok rebels, they're calling themselves.
Yeah.
I even saw Children's Crusade somewhere. I mean,
That's a statement.
that's a big statement. They're flooding congressional offices with calls, messages, the whole 9 yards. So it's more than just hitting like and share now. It's like someone's trying to take away their digital playground.
Mhm.
So from what you've seen, what's making them so fired up?
It's really interesting, actually. I mean, this kind of civic engagement, especially with, younger people, it's not something you see every day. But for a lot of them, TikTok, it's not just an app, right? It's how they express themselves. It's their community. Some even make money from it.
It's their livelihood.
Exactly. It's not just about funny videos. It's their life, their identity, and they're seeing this ban as a threat to that. And the report, it highlights how they're using social media, not just TikTok itself, to organize protests, reach out to politicians, even raise money.
I did notice, though, they're using a lot of humor to get their point across. Like one user in the report said, let us keep our silly little TikToks. I mean, that almost makes you forget how serious this is.
Oh, absolutely. Using humor like that, it's smart, it makes the message more relatable, easier to share. But underneath all that, they're making a serious argument, right, about data privacy and freedom of speech.
Right, because the government, they're worried about ByteDance, TikTok's parent company, and their potential ties to the Chinese government.
Right, the concern is that user data could be at risk.
And on the other side, you've got these TikTokers, and they're like, I'm just a teenager. What do they want with my data?
Exactly. They see it as the government overreaching,
Right.
trying to control what they can and can't do, what they can and can't watch.
Definitely a tricky situation.
Right.
And the Inside Edition report, it makes it pretty clear that this congressional vote, it's just the tip of the iceberg, right? Like the first act in a long play.
Yeah, it's a long way from over. So Congress taking this step, that's a big deal in itself. This vote is basically saying, okay, let's start figuring out how to actually ban this thing.
So what happens now? What are the next steps?
Okay, so next up, it has to go through the Senate. But the Senate, they might have totally different priorities, concerns, who knows? This could take months. And we haven't even talked about potential legal battles. ByteDance, they could easily turn around and sue, saying this ban is unconstitutional or discriminatory. It gets complicated.
So much for a quick resolution. So what should we be looking out for as this unfolds? What could really shake things up?
Keep an eye on a few things. First, how well does each side present their case? The government, they need to show with evidence that there are real data security risks.
Right. Hard proof.
Exactly. And the TikTokers, they need to keep the momentum going. Show that this isn't just a flash in the pan, some internet trend that'll fizzle out.
Keep the pressure on.
Exactly. The other thing to watch is the international reaction. Will other countries jump on board and do the same thing, or will this look like the U.S. is overreacting?
Yeah, it could set a precedent for how governments and social media interact.
100%.
Wow, so we started with a seemingly simple app, and now we're talking about, like, freedom of expression, global politics.
Exactly. It's a big deal.
This is why we do these deep dives.
It makes you think, doesn't it? In a world where data is king, how do we make sure everyone's safe, but also make sure people still have their freedom? It's a tough one.
It really is. That's our deep dive for this week, everyone. This whole thing with TikTok, it started with a simple question, but there are no simple answers. The story is far from over, so keep your eyes peeled, and we'll be back next time with another deep dive.